Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 339 based on novel. So let's start. Tuor Sen's voice echoed across the void, and following that was the roar of the blood dragon. The blood dragon was like a fierce beast guarding the vortex as it coiled up outside the vortex. However, this showed Tuor Sen's arrogance, or else he wouldn't have made the blood dragon open the vortex leading to the Sea of Blood. The old man in black didn't attack, he just silently looked at the blood dragon. No one knew what he was thinking. Master Flamespark's eyes lit up, then he took a step forward and charged at the blood dragon. In the distance, the 8 kings of the corpse sect moved like 8 swords at the blood dragon. The blood dragon's eyes were alert. The strange formation the 8 of them had created had made it suffer. At this moment, its eyes lit up and it charged toward the 8 kings of the corpse sect while completely ignoring Master Flamespark. It was so fast that it created after images. The 8 people of the corpse sect quickly scattered and surrounded the blood dragon. They all formed seals and bombarded the blood dragon with spells. After Master Flamespark closed in, he waved his hand and a sea of flames appeared. The flames turned into a flame dragon that began fighting the blood dragon. At the same time, Master Flamespark's left hand reached out and immediately took out a bell from his storage space. This bell was made of bones and was wrapped in a layer of metal. When it appeared, ringing sounds echoed. Even though the rings weren't crisp, a ripple immediately charged toward the blood dragon. The blood dragon's eyes became bloodthirsty. Originally, the blood dragon only had a pair of pupils, but after using some unknown spell, its pupils split in half and then split again. In an instant, there were 8 pairs of pupils in the blood dragon's eyes. A sense of crisis immediately echoed within the hearts of Master Flamespark and the 8 kings of the corpse sect. However, they were powerful cultivators that had broken through the peak of the Nirvana Shatterer stage and passed their 5 heavens blights. They had lived for a long time and had extremely rich combat experience. The moment they detected this crisis, they didn't dodge, but instead, attacked. When a powerful spell is being cast, when its power reaches its peak, that is also its weakest moment. This was an experience the 9 of them had gained after countless years. Master Flamespark's right hand touched the spot between his eyebrows and 45 fragments immediately flew out. The fragments quickly enlarged and transformed into 45 Thunder Celestial Realm fragments that covered the sky. Power of the Thunder Celestial Realm. As Master Flamespark waved his hand, the 45 fragments let out a heaven-shaking rumble as they smashed down on the blood dragon. The pressure of the fragments descending unexpectedly felt like the might of the heavens. A thunderous rumble echoed and countless small parts of the blood dragon caved in. The minds of the 8 kings of the corpse sect were connected. Their hands quickly formed seals and 8 rays of light gathered. As the cold energy gathered, the 3rd corpse formation that froze the dragon earlier appeared once more. A ball of black ice 1,000 feet large appeared once more with the 8 of them inside. In the blink of an eye, countless sharp edges appeared on the ball of ice, then it charged at the blood dragon. The blood dragon's pupils shrank, then one pair of pupils among the 8 began to enlarge until it took the position of the other pupils. At this instant, a darkness suddenly appeared. This darkness was so dark that not even divine sense could see inside. One could only hear heaven-shaking rumbles echo inside. The darkness only lasted for an instant before it was gone. However, after it recovered, 4 of the 45 fragments from Master Flamespark shattered to dust and the remaining 41 were pushed back. Master Flamespark's eyes filled with shock. The ball of ice formed by the 8 kings of the corpse sect was also attacked by some unknown method and the ice collapsed. The 8 of them all coughed out blood and shock filled their eyes. The old man that was still thinking looked up and frowned, but he continued pondering. There was one thing he didn't understand: what was Master Wuji's goal? Could it be to steal the power of the 8-star royal ancient god? But back then, even Celestial Emperor Qinling gave up. Master Wuji, what method do you have? Wang Lin was in the distance. He looked at the battle and didn't get close. That sudden darkness caused him to feel a powerful sense of danger, making him even more unwilling to get close. However, after seeing the blood dragon for a second time, Wang Lin felt like it looked a bit familiar. This feeling spread through his heart and Wang Lin's eyes suddenly lit up. He naturally saw Master Flamespark and the old man in black. The moment he saw the old man, Wang Lin knew that the blood dragon wouldn't be able to do much. However, the old man was frowning as if he was thinking about something. He didn't even look at the blood dragon. He was able to force senior brother Qing Shui back. He opened the spatial barrier with one spell. His body is filled with source origin energy, and he can touch all law. This person has to be a third-step cultivator. There is no other possibility. The blood dragon's eyes had returned to normal, but not only did its fierceness not decrease, it was even more intense. The remaining 7 pupils enlarged once more and occupied its eyes. The entire void was enveloped in darkness. In the darkness, Wang Lin immediately felt a strange law wrap around him. It seemed to want to pull out his origin soul and become one with the darkness. This time, the darkness lasted for 2 breaths of time. After 2 breaths of time, Wang Lin's eyes were filled with confusion and he took a few steps back. Cracking sounds could be heard as 7 cracks appeared on his body. His face was black, faintly revealing the color of stone. Master Flamespark, who was closest to the blood dragon, was pale and quickly retreated. The celestial realm fragments rotated before him and several of them collapsed. As for the 8 kings of the corpse sect, 2 of their bodies immediately collapsed and the other 6 retreated. One of them quickly took out 2 more coffins from his storage space. The 2 blurred figures immediately entered the coffins. In an instant, the 2 coffins shattered and 2 old men walked out. As the 8 of them retreated, their hands formed seals. One of the old men shouted, "Second corpse formation." At this moment, their hands moved even faster and lined up in a vertical line. Cold energy surrounded them, and in the blink of eye, black ice appeared. This ice was very dark, making it impossible to see the 8 of them. However, in an instant, the ice turned into a sword over 1,000 feet long. The moment the sword appeared, a heaven-shaking pressure appeared with a powerful sense of sharpness. It charged directly at the blood dragon with powerful sword energy. Master Flamespark's eyes widened as he bit the tip of his finger and quickly drew a rune. He hit the rune and then it flew out, flashing blood red on the way. The remaining fragments all scattered and charged at the blood dragon from all directions. It looked like they were going to surround the blood dragon. The blood dragon's eyes became serious and the 6 remaining pupils flashed once more. This time it wasn't just one pair taking over, the pupils scattered and shared the eye. In an instant, the entire world became dark, and after 3 breaths of time, the darkness disappeared. Wang Lin retreated without hesitation and dodged the power of darkness. However, his eyes flashed and stayed locked onto the blood dragon. He felt the aura of an ancient god more and more clearly from the blood dragon. Master Flamespark's eyes became even more pale, but he continued to move forward. His hands formed seals as the dozens of celestial realm fragments continued to close in on the blood dragon. The sword formed by the 8 kings was now less than 1,000 feet from the blood dragon. Popping sounds came from within it as if it were withstanding some kind of attack. The darkness appeared once more around the void, and this time it lasted for 4 breaths of time. After 4 breaths of time, the void returned to normal. Wang Lin retreated even faster, but his eyes were very serious as he stared at the blood dragon. The sword formed by the 8 kings of the corpse sect seemed to have slowed down. After 4 breaths of time, it only moved forward 200 feet. Then cracking sounds echoed and a crack appeared on the sword. The veins on Master Flamespark had swelled up and the fragments still closed in on the blood dragon. But all of this disappeared in an instant as the darkness enveloped the void. A rumbling sound echoed within the darkness, and the angry roar of the blood dragon could be heard. After 5 breaths of time, the darkness disappeared and Wang Lin's eyes shined brightly. He no longer retreated but charged at the blood dragon. The large swords formed by the 8 kings of the corpse sect collapsed and the 8 of them coughed out blood as they retreated. Blood came out of Master Flamespark's mouth, and he was forced back 3 steps before he stabilized himself. There was a large wound going from the head of the dragon down its body that was 10,000 feet long. From afar, this wound was very shocking. There was no blood coming out from this wound. Instead, There were fist-sized crystals that looked like its flesh leaking out. The blood dragon roared and its pupils suddenly spread once more. When the darkness appeared once more, Wang Lin sped up and desperately rushed in. Popping sounds echoed inside his body and his left arm exploded into ashes. However, he didn't slow down at all as anxiety and need appeared in his eyes. He didn't expect to see the heart blood of the ancient god here. With this, my original body will be able to get through the first trial of 3 trials 7 calamity. The blood dragon naturally noticed Wang Lin, but in its eyes, this cultivator was only an ant. This cultivator would die to its darkness before he could even get close. And this was the truth. When Wang Lin was within 1,000 feet of the blood dragon, the darkness enveloped the void once more. However, this time the difference was that this darkness would make the old man in black pay attention to Wang Lin for the first time. All of this was because of Wang Lin. Wang Lin had already gained some enlightenment about the darkness from before. This enlightenment had nothing to do with his cultivation level, it came from his Sundered Night spell. Sundered Night contained a hint of law of origin, and this was also the source of the law of light. All darkness would dissipate before this light. However, all existences were relative, and if there was the law of origin, there was the law of the end. This darkness was formed by law of the end. The moment the darkness appeared, Wang Lin used Sundered Night with his own power. He doesn't seek to kill the enemy, he just wanted to survive in this darkness. For the first and only time, a ray of light appeared in this darkness. Although it wasn't very strong, it still appeared. Inside the light, Wang Lin felt his body burning. His origin energy was burning, his origin soul was burning, and even his stone body was burning. He broke through the darkness while burning and crossed the 1,000 feet distance. He then entered the wound of the shocked blood dragon. The moment he entered the wood, Wang Lin ignored his burning body and desperately waved his hand. Large amounts of the blood dragon's blood crystals disappeared and were collected into his storage space. His face was filled with ecstasy, but there was also regret. He didn't expect to obtain ancient god heart blood here. After all, with his understanding of the land of the ancient god, all the heart blood had been taken by Tuo Sen. And it was simply too difficult to take it from Tuo Sen. Obtaining the heart blood made him ecstatic, but obtaining this heart blood meant he had to give up observing Tuo Sen's strength, which made him feel regret. With regret and joy, Wang Lin's origin soul was about to be completely burned when the darkness disappeared. His origin soul was about to collapse and he was about to die once more. After all, he wasn't strong enough to use Sundered Night at will. However, just at this moment, the old man who looked over due to the light Wang Lin had caused, and he revealed a strange gaze. The matter he couldn't understand seemed to have been affected by the light in the darkness, and he had figured it out. With one step, the moment the darkness disappeared, he appeared next to the blood dragon. His right hand randomly pointed forward and the blood dragon let out a roar before rapidly retreating. Thunderous rumbles came from its body as if it was going to collapse. The moment Wang Lin's vision blurred, the old man grabbed him out from the blood dragon and Wang Lin landed before the old man. The old man's right hand landed directly between Wang Lin's eyebrows and an unimaginable force rushed into Wang Lin's body. Popping sounds echoed and Wang Lin regained consciousness. The origin energy that had been burned away was instantly replenished. His origin soul that was on the verge of collapse recondensed. Even the body that was burnt seemed to reverse and gain life. All of this only took an instant. A very good young man. The old man in black looked at Wang Lin and revealed a hint of admiration. Also very clever. Since you came with your avatar to see the ancient god, then this old man will satisfy your wish. Wang Lin's mind was in shock. His pupils immediately shrank when someone immediately exposed his plan, but he quickly returned to normal. The admiration in the old man's eyes became even stronger. He no longer looked at Wang Lin or at the collapsing blood dragon, but pointed at the vortex with his right hand. It was only one finger, but in Wang Lin's eyes, that finger could pierce the world. He recalled back in all heaven how one finger from this old man had broken through the spatial barrier between all heaven and the Alliance. The vortex in the sky suddenly stopped and unexpectedly stopped rotating before this finger. It gradually spread open, exposing a world that was still blood red even without the blood sea. There was a cone-shaped mountain in this blood-colored world, and there was a person standing on top of it. This person's red hair moved without any wind and his eyes were blood red. His red eyes were filled with killing intent and an indomitable arrogance. No one would pay attention to his appearance because those eyes would draw all of your attention. Tuo Sen. Wang Lin had a complicated expression. Their fate was entangled. If Wang Lin hadn't appeared, Tuo Sen would have obtained the inheritance of knowledge and escaped long ago. He would be able to rule the stars with Tu Sai's body. After all, he was also Tu Sai. Even though Tuo Sen was born as an inner demon when Tu Sai failed to cultivate a spell, whether he was an inner demon or not, Tuo Sen was a real ancient god, a real royal ancient god. Unlike Tuo Sen, Wang Lin's ancient god body was formed through the ancient god tactic. Even though he was able to reach the 5-star stage due to a series of good opportunities, when his original body faced the 3 trials 7 calamities before, Wang Lin knew his ancient god body wasn't perfect. The complicated expression disappeared the moment Tuo Sen raised his head and looked at Wang Lin. Instead, it was replaced by a calm coldness. The human and god entangled by fate silently looked at each other through the vortex. The two people from 2 different worlds crossed paths. Tuo Sen's mouth twitched and he took a step. He left the mountain and arrived above the vortex. His gaze swept by. When Master Flame's Park made contact with Tuo Sen's gaze, his mind couldn't help but be shaken. He unexpectedly felt his own heartbeat. His heart pounded even faster and his mouth became dry. His face became even more pale and he subconsciously backed away. He didn't dare to look at Tuo Sen. It was as if this person was the heavens. Waste? Tuo Sen's gaze was filled with contempt. When his gaze fell on the 8 kings of the Corp sect, the contempt became even stronger. At least waste are people. You all are worse than waste. The 8 kings of the Corp sect had very high statuses in the Corp sect. However, at this moment, before Tuo Sen's gaze, they were even worse off than Master Flame's Park. Their faces were pale and they constantly retreated. That gaze felt almost corporeal and almost made them lose their wits. They felt like if this man raged, then even the heavens had to yield. They had never seen Tuo Sen's power, but for some reason, they immediately felt danger when they saw Tuo Senator. This feeling was very strange, but it clearly reminded the 8 of them of the existence of danger. Because Tuo Sen was a god. An 8-star ancient god. And they were just mortals, mere cultivators. Only the old man in black was calm, and he slowly said, "Royal blood. Ancient god soul." Tuo Sen's gaze landed on the old man in black. His gaze didn't change as he coldly said, "Finally, an existence that's not a waste." The old man wasn't angry at all, and he faintly smiled. He casually waved his right hand and a thunderous rumble echoed in the void between him and Tuo Senator. The collapse set off an invisible storm that charged straight at Tuo Sen. Facing the collapse of the void, Tuo Sen raised his right hand and threw a punch. The world trembled and the void trembled violently. At this moment, some Nirvana Shatterer cultivators had arrived. When they saw this punch, their faces changed greatly. They were filled with fear and panic. Wang Lin's face was pale. He clearly felt the power of this punch. When this punch landed, the trembling of the void reached a peak. A giant crack appeared between the old man and Tuo Senator. The sound of space tearing could be heard as the thunderous rumbles echoed. In the blink of an eye, it seemed like this void was split in half. It looked like a piece of paper being split down the middle and becoming 2 halves. The crack in the void immediately tore the world Tuo Sen was in into 2 different realms. The old man in black took a step forward and disappeared without a trace. When he reappeared, he was on the other side of the void. His hands didn't even need to form seals. He waved his sleeve, causing a loud rumble. Glacier appeared and soon covered more than 5,000 kilometers of space. This 5,000-kilometer area was filled with glacier, and they all collapsed and charged at Tuo Sen. A mere spell. So what if you have reached the Nirvana Void stage and are enlightened in law? So what? Tuo Sen's eyes were filled with monstrous arrogance as he let out a laugh and threw another punch. My ancient god clan doesn't cultivate laws because these laws are things my clan break. When Tuo Sen's punch landed, crackling sounds echoed across the world of ice. Whether it was the glacier rushing at him or the endless ice covering this 5,000-kilometer area, they all collapsed before this punch. The old man in black charged out with a serious expression. The 5,000 kilometers of ice collapsed into a storm, but Tuo Sen flew out. "I'll let all of you see the true power of my clan." Tuo Sen's gaze wasn't on the old man in black, but on Wang Lin. At this instant, his body gradually disappeared into the void. At the same time, the void shook once more and cracks appeared as if a violent force was going to tear the void open. A vortex appeared where Tuo Sen disappeared, and it contained a powerful suction force. The old man in black calmly stepped into the vortex. "All of you, come. This will be this dark god's true power." The old man's voice echoed. Wang Lin didn't hesitate to enter the vortex. He had a complicated expression. He was vaguely aware that this vortex would lead them to the physical space where Tu Sai's body was. In the spatial crack, there was the body of a giant ancient god that was the size of several cultivation planets. His finger moved a bit and slowly formed a fist. The closed eyes on his face that had been closed for countless years opened for the first time. The moment the giant ancient god opened his eyes, the spatial crack he was in trembled violently. It was as if an unimaginable aura had suddenly flooded the spatial crack, causing it to become unstable. It felt like it could be torn apart at any moment. His eyes were as calm as a dead sea, revealing the passage of time. His rough skin was like the earth of a dried-up, abandoned planet. The giant stared silently into the void, and the giant's expression gradually became ferocious. There were 8 dim stars on his forehead, but as his eyes opened and he awakened from his long slumber, a light appeared from the first ancient god star. A thunderous rumble echoed across the entire spatial crack. This sound was far more powerful than thunder, but if one listened closely, they would hear that it was the sound of bones rubbing against each other. The body was the size of several cultivation planets, and a cultivation planet was just like a toy before it. The ancient god slowly got up. The distance the ancient god moved just to get up would take a cultivator that didn't know spatial bending several hours to cross. Wang Lin stared at the giant ancient god before him. The moment the ancient god got up, a gust of wind blew at him, causing him and everyone around him to be pushed back. Only the old man in black stared ahead with a mysterious light in his eyes. Compared to the ancient god, these cultivators were several times smaller than ants. "I'm ancient god Tuo Sen." A mighty voice echoed, and the surrounding space began to crack. The 8 kings of the corpse sect were pale and wanted to retreat. However, any distance they moved was meaningless to the giant ancient god. This is God." Master Flamespark's expression became even more pale as he stared at the ancient god's unimaginably large body. Even with his cultivation level, he felt a sense of helplessness. Wang Lin had the lowest cultivation level. Although he didn't cough out blood, more crackling sounds came from his body. More cracks appeared, and the crack on his chest penetrated his body. His expression was blank, his origin soul was injured, and the body showed signs of turning back to rock. Nirvana Shatterer cultivators had also entered the vortex. Thanks to their cultivation levels, they weren't affected by the law of time at all, but right now it was as if their minds were going to collapse. The voice caused their origin souls to become unstable as the thunderous sound echoed in their ears. The gaze of the ancient god that sat up turned cold and the second star lit up. If one were to take a closer look, they would see that there was something special within the star that lit up. He looked at the cultivators floating before him and raised his hand to swat at them like a mortal would do when he was trying to drive away some flies. His hands was the size of cultivation planets, and when he moved them, the wind they created contained a power that was impossible to resist. It was as if distance had no meaning for the ancient god. It only took a moment for him to lift his right arm and wave it. However, for all the cultivators, the hand replaced everything in their view. Rumble, 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 rumble. Before the deafening roar had even entered people's ears, the hand was already near. It was impossible to describe the speed of the arm. The Nirvana Shatterer cultivator in front couldn't escape at all, so he activated his full power and layers of protection appeared before him. Then, in the instant the tens of thousands of layers of protection appeared, he retreated. He was trying to take a serious injury in order to resist against this cultivation planet-sized hand. The arm closed in and touched the protection layer around the cultivator. The tens of thousands of layers of protection were as fragile as a thin piece of paper before the ancient god's arm. The tens of thousands layers of protection around the cultivator all collapsed at once. In truth, there was a tiny bit of time between the collapse of each layer, but the difference was so small, it was pointless. The arm didn't stop at all and simply swept by. The cultivator that had spent countless years to finally reach the early stage of nirvana shatter revealed a miserable smile as his body exploded into a mist of blood that splattered on the ancient god's arm. His origin soul also dissipated. It turned into origin energy and was absorbed through a crack on the ancient god's rough skin. Seeing that the ancient god wasn't going to stop, the old man in black's eyes revealed a strange light. He took a step, and he crossed an immeasurable distance and arrived before the ancient god's arm. The old man's body was really insignificant compared to the giant arm. He was completely negligible. However, the old man was calm as he raised his right hand and his palm smashed forward. It was as if countless bolts of thunder had exploded between the old man and the ancient god's arm. The earth-shattering thunderclap echoed across the void. The arm that didn't seem like it would stop actually stopped when it collided with the old man's palm. At this instant, the wind finally caught up to the ancient god's arm and blew on the old man. The wind that could cause bodies to collapse and origin souls to shatter only blew the old man's hair backwards. One strand of hair cracked and was blown back. The old man's black clothes were blown back and tearing sounds came from his sleeves as 7 rips appeared. The lower part of the robe turned to dust. His right palm that collided with the ancient god's arm trembled as if ripples were moving through his skin. This ripple went through his right arm and his right sleeve tore a few more times before it turned to dust. The old man raised his head and his eyes lit up. His complexion turned red, but he suppressed the blood in his throat. He revealed a smile, then his left hand quickly pointed to the back of his right hand 5 times. When the first finger landed, an invisible force seemed to break this closed-off spatial crack. Endless origin energy came from all directions within 5,000 kilometers, entered the back of his right hand, and went into the ancient god's arm. The origin energy within 5,000 kilometers wasn't enough to deal with an ancient god. When the old man's finger landed a second time, enough origin energy to destroy the world gathered formed 50,000 kilometers, 500,000 kilometers, 5 million kilometers to create a powerful force that rushed into the ancient god's arm. All of this happened in an instant. It was so fast, the surrounding cultivators had no chance to react. As a thunderous rumble echoed, the ancient god's arm was unexpectedly knocked back by the old man. The old man's hand parted from the ancient god's arm but left a very clear black handprint on it. You are worthy of being the rumored 8-star royal ancient god that was beyond law and only nirvana void cultivators could fight. I once participated in killing an ordinary 8-star ancient god, and the difference is like heaven and earth. The old man retreated, and the redness on his face faded and was replaced with paleness. However, his eyes were bright as the moon and filled with battle intent. After retreating 7 steps, the old man's head jerked up and he rushed forward. He stepped on the arm of the ancient god to borrow force and then jumped toward Tuosen's face. Tuosen's eyes were still cold, and he revealed a look of contempt and arrogance. He lightly shook his right hand and the handprint collapsed. Then a thunderous roar echoed as he slowly stood up. This motion made him tower over everyone, and a power similar to the heavens might descended on everyone. After the 2 stars between Tuosen's eyebrows lit up, the third one also slowly lit up. However, there was something hidden deep within this 3rd star, but it couldn't be clearly seen or felt. Only Wang Lin stared at Tuosen before him, especially at Tuosen's star far away. His heart was filled with shock as he knew of an 8-star royal ancient god spells. He only knew the names but had no memory of how to use the spells. Bury the void to refine the stars. Waste! A buzzing sound echoed as Tuosen waved his hands at the old man, causing a huge gust of wind. His arms moved as fast as spatial bending and instantly closed in on the old man. His 2 hands were like 2 cultivation planets smashing toward the old man. The old man's face turned red once more and his clothes puffed up. His left and right arms stretched open and he let out a roar, causing endless origin energy to condense before his arms. Glacier suddenly appeared, followed by a sea of flames. Then beyond that were countless mountains followed by endless thunder. These countless spells appeared in an instant and layered on top of each other. The old man's arms remained stretched as these spells bombarded the ancient god's arms. At this instant, the spatial brack trembled violently and a thunderous roar echoed. From afar, it looked like countless fireworks were being set off onto Orsen's arms. However, these spells only caused Orsen's arms to stop for a moment, but this was enough for the old man in black to get out of the range of the arms and charge at Orsen's head. Master Wuji. If you still won't appear, don't blame this old man for not keeping my promise. Did you forget our agreement? The old man in black shouted as he moved. This video will end here.